All right, guys, it's another video by Swiss. Today's topic is going to be something that is really close to my heart. It's about community building and communication. And I've tweeted something out in preparation for this episode to get a couple of reactions from people that are following me on Twitter. And I have gotten a few responses, and I've gotten some good ones. And I've gotten some weird ones as usual. And that is perfectly fine. This represents what is currently going on Twitter and inside the Decentraland Twitter community. So what I basically tweeted out was the following statement. And it is maybe a slightly provocative statement for some. We are all different, and I keep on rediscovering the fact that we humans are so different. And like Twitter is the perfect mirror for that occurrence. So yeah, I'm not gonna be completely surprised, like what kind of reactions you might get to very basic ideas on Twitter. So here is the statement: is Decentraland supposed to be a community, or is it a place for communities to inhabit? Now, let me read this again real quick, because I think for a lot of people, maybe this has been a sentence that is a bit too complicated. And maybe we need to define the idea of community as well here. So is Decentraland supposed to be a community? Or is it a place for communities to inhabit? What this basically means is that, is Decentraland itself a community? Like, if you are from Decentraland and I'm from Decentraland, do we have something in common, right? Like, if you are from the US and you meet and you are in a war zone in Afghanistan, and you happen to meet another guy from the US, who is from California, and you're from New York, and you meet there, you are both from the US. You have that common feeling like we belong, we are from the same place, right? Even though you are from totally different subcultures inside your own country. So this is what I was referring to. If you're from Decentraland, are you part of something bigger or not? Or it doesn't matter. It might not matter. It might only matter what subcultures inside that framework you belong to. So let's say you're part of a development team, or part of a company, or part of an interest group. Maybe you are only part of that group. The fact that you are inside Decentraland is just a secondary fact, which is not that important. And this is actually the first part of the question. Is Decentraland supposed to be a community, or is it a place for communities to inhabit? And based on a couple of reactions, I actually realized that maybe the second is what is currently true for a lot of people. There is no Decentraland community. There is a world that communities can be part of. And but let's read the rest of the tweet. Although I think the key point was made in the first sentence. So I'm continuing to say, today there is no real sense of community in Decentraland, and I think I just said that, right? I mean, just being part of Decentraland, it doesn't make you feel like you're part of this movement or something like that. You're just part of crypto in general, and then you probably belong to like a subculture inside Decentraland. But the fact of being a Decentralander is not something that I feel is relevant or important for anyone in the community. I'm hesitating to say community now, right? And by the way, guys, how do you think about the new audio quality that we have? I've bought a new Wave 3 Elgato microphone, so maybe this is something that where you actually sense a difference in quality if you have listened to any of the other videos before. Shout out to Elgato, what a beautiful microphone they have. So let's continue. You can argue there is, but there is not. Why is that? Is it because the community lives on Twitter? Or is it because people are too different? I think this is an important statement as well. Like, a lot of the Decentraland communication and screenshot sharing and event announcement and news reporting happens all on Twitter. You don't actually have to log into Decentraland today to stay up to date on what's going on. Twitter is the perfect tool for that. So maybe all of the community building, all the communication, all the sense of belonging is handled at the Twitter level. And or maybe because people are too different. The second statement there is, yeah, maybe like the fact that the platform Decentraland initially, at least this is how it feels to me, was trying to attract techies and developers, and this whole philosophy of having an SDK but not having a working builder tool is kind of showing that predominantly the platform was aimed and geared towards techies. So maybe the combination of technically minded people and geeky minded people with marketers and with players and with children and then with older guys, like maybe this mixture doesn't necessarily work as well. Just because you're all part of Decentraland doesn't make you fit in nicely and neatly into a community. Maybe that's like the real world. Being in Decentraland does not disqualify or pre-qualify people to be somehow compatible with each other. Maybe there is none of that. And I think some of these thoughts are actually quite interesting. And maybe it's difficult to build a community just based on the fact that you're part of that virtual world. Maybe that you need to subdivide these people into sub-communities because otherwise it wouldn't work. Maybe that is the case. I was not aware of that. I thought just being part of Decentraland was already like the thing, and whatever you want to do inside of it, that's a whole other story. But apparently it's not. So there are quite a few responses here from quite a few people, and some people try to specify, what kind of subcultures we have. And someone said that we actually don't have, the tools necessary in the sense of features such as defining neighborhoods and organizations. I think what he meant was like flagging those, making a brand around about an organization inside Decentraland. If you could maybe have some kind of special addition to your name because you belong to an organization, some kind of tribe or some kind of faction, like from gaming. Maybe you could have some sort of branding involved for being part of a sub community. We don't have these mechanics and these features inside Decentraland, so none of these have developed. So basically, here he's also referring to the idea of subcultures, of sub communities inside Decentraland, not necessarily the way I was referring to like being part of Decentraland. No, they're actually referring to specific subcultures inside Decentraland too. And then somebody from the Decentraland team, I think, and he is not necessarily branding himself. Well, in the bio there is a mention that he is from the Decentraland team, but otherwise from I wouldn't have known that. I wasn't necessarily sure he was. So by the way, I think it would be really cool if the guys from the Decentraland team would have some kind of unified identity, at least visually, on their avatars or something like this, that that they are from the Decentraland team. They have such a wide array of different pictures that they use and inconsistent kind of branding. I don't know if this is a thing or not, but personally, I really care about the appearance and about the branding, and like I think it would be just helpful to see, hey, okay, this is the community manager, hey, this is a developer, but they're all from Decentraland, and this is how I think it would be great. Anyways, so he basically goes to say, so what exactly is missing? Like, if you speak, then be more detailed. This is how I perceived it, right? Give us some more details there. So I'm saying, first, what I'm missing is a systematic animation through communication. And actually, I said through over communication. Like, everyone who has ever been to a holiday in Turkey, on some kind of all-inclusive holiday, for example, but I think that's also true for a lot of different kind of holiday organization. For those who still remember the times where we used to travel before COVID, inside those hotels, you would have people specifically dedicated to animating people. I mean, you could just leave those people be. I mean, they have a swimming pool, they have all the food and alcohol they can possibly think of. Why would you need to do anything for those? Those are grown-ups. But no, those people require animation, so it's fun for them. This is how people function. The majority of people require a little bit of guidance, a little bit of initiative, a little bit of planning for them, so they don't have to think about this. If you want to build a vibrant community for other leaders to come in and help you build the community, you need to do some of the work too. Right now, it feels like, hey guys, here is the world. We are gonna like build a couple of tools over the next couple of years for you, but you organize yourselves and you build your own communities, and ideally also, you know, get some developers on board to actually build the world too. That's not how this is going to work, I imagine, right? I mean, like, we have seen how little development has been actually happening independently, and how much, you know, opinion leadership has been available on Twitter and on social media. Like, most people just, you know, disappear in the silent majority without any animation, without any active communication of what is going on, where are we going, what's possible, how is the DAO doing, what's the new announcement, who is, you know, all of that stuff. I mean, it does happen a little bit. I'm not going to say it's not happening at all. It does happen, and for a lot of it, it works really well. But for a lot of it, it doesn't work. Like, there is no narrative, there is no communication, there is no inside man who is constantly everywhere, and you can see that that person is from the team and that he cares and that, you know, he is invested, he's got skin in the game. Like, we don't know who those people are. Like, maybe you do, but I don't, and I try to stay like up to date on things. I don't. Like, I actually would have to spend energy to try figuring it out. I remember in other games, if somebody from the development team would come into the game to fix something, this would be like God coming to Earth. Like, it will be a special character, and it will be a whole thing. Like, the Grandmaster would appear, and everything would stop, and you would know that this is someone who can make stuff happen. Like, this is one way of dealing with it, but I think there are, you know, less dramatic ways of dealing with it. Just being like a visually recognizable part of a leadership team, I think this would be highly important. And I understand that maybe there is concerns about getting too deeply involved with the community, that they, you know, that the community becomes dependent on a centrally governed team. But I think at the beginning, this is the way to go. And this is what I was trying to say with, it's important to have systematic animation through communication, right? And then, of course, pretty much the same argument, just from a different angle, is that you need to have a leading voice that provides direction and identity. Like, I mean, by providing identity, I meant if you want to build a community around the fact that we are all part of Decentraland, if that is not required, which it seems to be the case, like, no one considers being part of Decentraland to be an attribute for a community. Everyone thinks of sub-communities, right? So I must say I got, you know, caught off guard on that particular aspect of the arguments. Like, okay, wow, so it doesn't even matter. All right. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot you can say on that particular response there, but let's move on. So some people, you know, mentioned that there is clickiness inside Decentraland. Definitely true. Lots of clickiness. Same guys, you know, and their fanboys, attracting more of those fanboys and creating little communities. I mean, I understand it. It's fine with me. As long as they don't come to bother me with their tweets, I'm fine. And then Toonpunk says, well, he basically proposes his help if there is something missing and if I want to build something. I mean, this argument of, hey, if you want to change something, why don't you do it, kind of thing. Yeah, this is like this narrative we have now in the decentralized world. And I respect it, and I understand this, and I think it's a valid argument to make. If you don't like something, or if you see something is missing, why don't you do it? Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do as much as I can with the time that I have left, and I'm not gonna be investing more time into it. without having some kind of certainty what is going on, right? Like, I mean, today I've discovered that there is things happening in the DAO. Like, I've been paying attention to the DAO about 3 weeks ago, and then I stopped paying attention to it because there is things happening in the background that other community members know about, and you find out like through someone else that something that you have been trying to make a proposal on is already being implemented. So then the question is, okay, is it maybe too early for the DAO? Because what's the point of me proposing something assuming it doesn't exist and it is already being developed? Then what's the role of the DAO, right? And then I kind of stepped away from it. And then 3 weeks later, I realized that a few days later, there was a new proposal that has been already accepted by 2 people. Exactly on a relevant topic, and it hasn't been anywhere like visibly communicated. So if you haven't checked the forum, which nobody does check, you wouldn't know. So then, okay, then I say to myself, first of all, does it really matter that I didn't know? No, it doesn't matter. What's the point of, why not communicate it to everyone? We do have the channels. Well, I don't know. Then, okay, maybe this is just, the beginning. Like, if you start putting decisions semi-publicly onto the forum, and if you start introducing this as a mechanism, people will start getting used to it. They will actually feel like they're missing out on stuff, and eventually they will pay attention to it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a viable strategy to do so. But I was like surprised, I was like, bam. I mean, how would you have possibly been able to find out that there is such an important vote? Like, there is some artists who now get to create wearables. I wanted to create wearables too, maybe. And I know people who would have wanted to create wearables, but now a bunch of artists, they get to do it first. And how did they get to it? Is there a way to apply for it, or do you have to directly contact the team? So, I mean, this whole thing is, it's just a little bit fishy. But it doesn't matter because we are early on, and it's not that anyone had like any proposals anyways. And if you had one, you could have written to the team, and you could have navigated around that. But the communication aspect is super important, how you do it, because if you want to play the decentralized card and you don't want to get involved, you don't want to be over involved, and you don't want to have too much influence inside the community as a foundation, then also communicate accordingly so people have a fair chance to participate in all of these processes, right? So basically, if you had 528 lands to your name, you could have voted as a one vote for that proposal, and then it would have been accepted because it's more than 1%. And again, the mechanics behind the percentages are also not necessarily clear. I don't know where to read up on it. Like, it's just all a little bit like in its early stages. So communication is just super important. If you want to have people who are like trying to take a little bit of a leadership role in there as well. If you want to have people creating content, if you want to have people to spend time on these projects, you need to also then communicate about it. If it happens behind closed doors, eventually people are just going to tune out and join the silent majority. That's what's going to happen, right? So, I mean, I'm cool with it for now, man. Like, but eventually, other people will not be cool with it, or they will just not invest any time into it. So it's an interesting topic. I mean, yeah. I mean, he goes on to say that. I mean, I told him that it's easy to burn out because it's very unrewarding right now to be investing time into Decentraland, and if you don't get the attention, if you don't get any benefit out of it, eventually you do burn out and you don't want to do it anymore. And I think we kind of agreed on that. And it was an interesting tweet to reply to. I mean, there is more to it. There is more to it, and you can check out the tweet, maybe, make a comment yourself. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. This was just like an attempt to discuss this whole Decentraland community building and communication problem. I think, what we are trying to do here is to stay up to date, to be engaged. Some people came on and they replied that they don't understand what I'm talking about. And I mean, yeah, it's a complicated topic. That's what I can say. So, if they feel like they're part of a worthy community, I'm happy. I'm happy for them. It's good. I think the question was larger than that. But I think we've covered that. All right, guys. We are at 20 minutes here. I think it's time to wrap up. I hope I haven't missed anything specific here that I wanted to talk about, but yeah, we'll see. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this was useful and take care.